Let's go deep into the technical revolution that's turned Ferrari around. Undoubtedly, most attention over the winter went into the engine and hybrid system. Last year was a mess. The chassis designers forced the engine department to compromise on cooling and performance for their own aero gain, and it made the car slow. The Ferrari wasn't able to generate anywhere near as much electricity from the generator running off the turbo, the MGU-H, as Mercedes were. This meant they couldn't fully charge the battery over a single lap, but a complete redesign means they can now. And Ferrari are nearly on terms with the market-leading energy recovery system, which is Mercedes. Indeed, Ferrari have poached ERS and engine specialists from Mercedes over the winter. Ferrari have also developed the best car cooling package in Formula One, which gave them an edge over Mercedes in Malaysia.
Our car has a pretty good cooling package, and even in the hot weather we had in Malaysia, we were able to keep it all closed up at the back. Eyeballing their car on the grid, it looked relative to their Australia package like they had to open up a little bit at the back, and that means they lose a little bit of downforce relative to their normal level of competitiveness.
The aerodynamics of this year's Ferrari are also improved, but engineers in the paddock still think it's second best to Mercedes. So let's take you under the skin in the aerodynamics to understand the suspension improvements. Last year we saw a lot of this, uncontrollable wheel spin on the power out of corners. So Ferrari worked a lot on a clever new rear suspension torsion bar and damper system with anti-roll bars to reduce wheel spin due to the increased torque of these hybrid engines and improve traction out of corners. This clever suspension, both rear and front, is really the key explanation as to Ferrari's better tyre management that helped them win in Malaysia, and it's going to help them win again this season.
The rubber performs at its best when it's at its design temperature. If the track temperature is too high, then the rubber runs outside its normal operating window and it loses a lot of grip. And a very small number of degrees on the tyre temperature will make a lot of difference to the lap time. One of the things that works nicely on our car is that it runs probably just a few degrees cooler than the Mercedes, and that's helpful.
Last is the front of the car. Improved kinematics, that's the motion of the chassis against the tyre, means that the front tyres don't overheat and the front of the car now feels crisp. Kimi Räikkönen hated the lazy front end of last year's Ferrari, so how have they sharpened it up?
The mechanical designers have put an awful lot more installation stiffness into the suspension, so the kinematics control where the wheel should go if everything were infinitely rigid, but then if you make it as structurally rigid as you can, then you get what you wanted to have when you design suspension. Our last year's suspension was a bit too floppy, so it didn't really control the wheels that well.
4 key areas of technical improvement then: better suspension, better tyre usage, better cooling and more power. Bravissimo Ferrari! Sooner or later, they're coming to get Mercedes.